Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the We Are Not Lonely podcast. Yes, I am saying welcome back and not using the other intro, which was Hello, Humanity, because it's been such a long time and I do want to welcome you back to the podcast. Right. As for what has been happening these past few months, I'm sure you have a whole bunch of questions. But suffice it to say that all of your questions will be answered. There's a video coming out on the 21st of December. You can find out and you can subscribe to the premiere. It's going to be the first video that I'm putting out in a series of long videos, perhaps. I don't know. I'll never tell. Why don't you watch the video and find out? But yeah, that's gonna be explaining what's been happening and why I haven't been able to podcast over the past few months. It's gonna explain the whole thing, so go check that out. I will try to leave a link somewhere in the description or make it pop up somewhere on the screen. Alright, now moving on to the podcast. As usual, I decided to do this particular podcast on a Sunday. This was how we used to do it back in the day. Once Leo got a little, shall we say, busy, we started doing it more frequently on Sundays. So Sundays sort of became the podcast day, so to speak. Anyway, keeping in line with tradition, I decided to go with that. Actually, that's not what happened. I just happened to find the time to record the podcast episode today, which is why it's happening. Anyway, moving on to the episode. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics of all time. I think from that tone of voice, I think you already know what to expect. Today's episode is going to be about getting woke, going broke again. There's a reason I decided to do this particular episode at this particular time. It's because I've been watching certain things happen in the entertainment industry for a very long time now, ever since last year, but I didn't really put out anything. For example, I'm going to be talking about something that's been, causing me severe issues, enough angst to cause me to read an entire new book series because I didn't like the way the series went. You'll find out more about that as the podcast goes. We're going to start off with the topic, which is get woke, go broke. Now, I think at some point I might end up writing like this whole research paper about this particular topic because I think it warrants that sort of attention, and this is definitely a topic that needs to be explored in great detail, right? And right now I'm just putting out information, I'm just going through things, observing and noting them, and maybe later I will seriously delve into the issue. But let's just start out with what's been happening over the past year or so. The first thing I'm going to start out with is the whole scene with Blizzard. Blizzard Entertainment's severely lost its way, especially after the whole Diablo announcement. Part of it is because of the whole diversity hiring thing. Over the world, we've gotten to see this thing where people are being hired not just based on their qualifications, not just based on their merit, but to tick off a certain diversity checkmark in their organizational's leaflet, book, whatever, man. They're there not because they're good enough for the job, but they're there to fulfill diversity requirements. I'm going to start off with my pet project, my pet peeve, Disney. So I used to be this huge Marvel fan. I've watched pretty much most of the Marvel movies from the initial phase, or since Iron Man all the way up to Infinity War and Endgame, and then Spider-Man, the whole scene, after Mysterio, and then No Way Home and all of that. Right. So I've been this huge fan of Marvel for a very long time. I loved the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it's not that I was a fanatic. I was going there to get entertained, and for a very long time they did a really good job of doing exactly that. They were quite entertaining. But ever since Endgame ended, I've noticed this really weird trend, and it's not just I who has noticed this. Like, a lot of people have noticed this particular trend where Disney's gotten a lot more, shall we say, woke. They've started preaching through their movies, and everybody is starting to see through this stuff. I mean, at least I have, and this has been on my mind for a very long time, and I've finally decided to speak up and speak my truth. Oh man. So the thing is, the whole point of a company like Disney was to entertain the audience, and they've done a really good job in the past. They've delivered multiple blockbuster movies that have broken records all around the world multiple times over. Some of the biggest grossing movies have come from the Disney fold. But unfortunately, recently they seem to be losing their way. Alright? And this is, I'm not doing a very in-depth, deep critical analysis, but I'm just speaking about my experience, what I've noticed. So there seems to be this trend in the recent movies and series where the men have been dumbed down. Let's talk about Loki. Now, to be fair, Loki came out almost a year ago, and if you still haven't watched it, that's not on me. I'm just gonna say spoiler warning and go ahead, alright? This particular Loki from the Loki series was the one that got away during the chaos that happened with the Avengers time traveling back to 2012 to the Avengers, the first Avengers movie, stealing the Tesseract and failing, and then they go back in time again and steal it again. But the point was, Loki got away and they created something called a branch out event or something. I forget the terminology. Basically, there was a branch off of the main timeline, right? And that's where Loki got away. Now, immediately as soon as, and this particular series, the Loki series, follows the events of that particular Loki. The one that didn't go to Asgard after being captured, but he got away. In the series, there's this omniscient, all-seeing TVA, Time Variance Authority. So basically, Loki is a variant. This is not how time was supposed to flow, and his timeline is supposed to be pruned because he did this nonsense. Now, bear in mind, let's go back to the time 2012. Loki was a menace. He was cold, calculating, and the general consensus was that that dude had gone through some severe torture at the hands of Thanos. Right? This is just speculation, but he seemed to be acting pretty much out of character. He had turned completely evil and so on and so forth. Right? He was completely conniving, evil. He went about, there's this iconic line from the movie, Loki might have lost his mind, but he still is of Asgard. And my brother. He killed 70 people in the space of 7 days or something like that. And Thor goes, he's adopted? Right? So that's where Loki was. Cold, callous, calculating. But over the events of Loki, you see him becoming a complete moron. He acts like an idiot. He's literally kicked in the balls by Sif, Lady Sif. But remember that scene on the train where he's getting drunk? He's supposed to be keeping it low profile, but he decides to kick up havoc, draw attention to himself. And it's the lady Loki who has to remind him not to do all of that. This is just one. Now, the other thing I found hilarious, right, was in Wandavision. Basically, what Wanda has done is take an entire town hostage, right? You see that none of the children appear. It's this whole pretend thing where it's supposed to be like a TV show, and it's like this meta comment, we're actually watching a TV show, and Wanda is broadcasting that out into the universe, and that's how we get to see the entire events of WandaVision, right? It's a TV show within a TV show, basically. But towards the end, basically she's gone full villain, and towards the end, she decides to give up her 2 imaginary kids that she created out of thin air, and This is supposed to somehow balance out the fact that she held an entire town hostage against their will, controlled their minds, forced them to be actors in her weird play act with her false husband. I'm losing myself. Give me a second. She took an entire town hostage and forced them to become unwilling actors in a play. A play which so that she could basically play house. That town had children who were not there because of the implications. Vision conveniently asks Wanda this later. Why are there no children here? All of that, right? And there's a whole lot of subtext under all of this. And the funny thing is they make out the guy in control of Shield. They make him out to be some sort of a villain for trying to do the right thing. Wanda is taking an entire town hostage. What is wrong with you? I can't believe they had the gall to make him out to be some sort of a villain. He was just doing the right thing. Oh, and this whole part where he pulls his gun out onto those two people, the children of Wanda, they're not even real, dude. Oh my god, this and that iconic line at the end. They won't know what you've sacrificed. Oh god. What? Marvel's writing has gone downhill recently, and I, for one, have had enough. I'm not gonna watch any more of their movies because clearly they've been infiltrated by woke writing. Let's move on, dude. Thor, one of my favorite characters. He's supposed to be 1,500-year-old god in the MCU, and they've got him acting like a bumbling idiot. There was real opportunity to explore his character. Taika Waititi, man. I think he let it get to his head. The success of Thor Ragnarok got to his head, I suppose. It was very sad. I actually enjoyed the humor of the movie, but I hated the way Gore, the God Butcher, was butchered. See what I did there? See, the thing is, like, at first, since that was the first media that I was consuming in a very long time, I enjoyed the movie. I watched it in IMAX, which was really cool. The effects were brilliant and all of that. But that movie could have been so much more, man. Christian Bale, such an amazing actor, and they barely got to use him. We didn't get to see Gore the God Butcher any gods. I'm not even gonna get onto the plot points because it's so much better just to watch the whole... Who's that guy who does the meetings? Pitch meetings. Go watch pitch meetings. He does a really beautiful job of breaking down the really stupid things that happen in the movie. In pretty much every movie. I enjoy watching pitch meetings and how it should have ended instead of watching the actual movie these days, because most of Marvel's work is trash and I would rather save my money and my time, which is more important. Yeah, so I don't even want to talk about She-Hulk. That absolute travesty of a show. Disgusting. Everywhere around the MCU you see this transformation. It's becoming the MCU. Literally, feminism is being injected into every single movie, into every single character. And see, I wouldn't have a problem if their writing for the female characters wasn't so dog shit. God, man, this is the issue. They've become okay with mediocrity. I think they're just high off of their success, or they've given over these projects to people who would rather lecture and pass out the message rather than entertain people. Now, there's already a backlash happening, I would assume, because people don't want to be lectured to when they go there to be entertained. Now, the thing is, it's not just an issue that is limited to the MCU. The same issue happened to other IPs, intellectual properties that Disney owns. For example, Star Wars. With every passing Star Wars movie, they've gotten more and more woke. They've just gotten so woke to the point that they've completely destroyed their entire fan base. They've divided the entire fan base. And they've taken a multi-billion-dollar IP and taken a huge, massive, stinking dump all over it. It's sad, it's disgusting, but that's the world we've come to. And I, for one, have reached this point where I don't want to consume all of this nonsense. I would rather create my own content. Because I'm sick and tired of being lectured to. I don't want to see the message, the all-important message, every time I go to turn my brain off in a movie theater. It's really sad. It's pathetic. The funny thing is, when I become a multi-billion-dollar industry, when I create a franchise, when I create an IP that is rivaling Marvel, I will say this: you only had yourself to blame, my friend. I was happy to be a consumer and enjoy these fiestas that you would unload on us every once in a year. I was happy to be a consumer, but then you started creating crap content. You forced me to create. You dug your own grave. I am sorry, I'm a little melodramatic, but this is a franchise that I've basically grown up with. I remember the first time I saw Iron Man, it was back in school. It changed the way it changed the way I saw entertainment, man. It was like an eye-opener. I was like, damn, that's a really cool movie. And then I got invested into the whole MCU, and I watched Endgame thrice in theaters. Yeah, and it's come to this. It's really sad. Now, this problem isn't particularly just only with Disney, by the way. It's something that is happening all around Hollywood, as well as Bollywood as well. But I will get to Bollywood later, right? Let's stick to Hollywood for now. For example, let's compare and contrast House of the Dragon and Rings of Power, all right? Let's start off by just looking at the IPs. House of the Dragon is supposed to be a prequel to the highly successful Game of Thrones series. In the books, it's called A Song of Ice and Fire. A Song of Ice and Fire. It's a very well written series, but George R.R. Martin has taken too long and he hasn't released any books. I finished reading the entire series when I completed my undergraduation. That was 2015. My classmate had the entire series. I borrowed one book at a time from him. I completed the entire thing. That was in 2015. It's been 2022. I don't think I've heard about any new drops of movies any new book releases, because they've been entirely focused on the show, which makes sense. They did make a lot of money. But the issue was I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's stop there and go to Rings of Power. Now, a lot of issues with Rings of Power, but it's basically a prequel to the Lord of the Rings series. It's supposed to be about the Second Age. Now, bear in mind that I'm not an expert. I haven't read the Silmarillion and the rest of the books, but essentially, the characters that are supposed to be in this particular thing, the things that they're referring to are events of the Silmarillion, which unfortunately Amazon does not have the rights to. So how could they make a show to which they don't have the rights? Well, they did some legal trickery. You see, they purchased the Lord of the Rings series, the rights to the entire series, and all of the content in it, and in one book called The Return of the Kings, in the book jacket, it actually explains the events of the Silmarillion. And in the book too. Okay, so that's what they were going off of. They had this entire plan, they invested over $1 billion, and I understand that the show is visually a treat, which completely makes sense because they've sunk a lot of money into it. But let's stop there because I'm going to get into the I'm gonna break it down because I've spent quite a lot of time doing this, you see. Now, fan base wise, Lord of the Rings has a very dedicated fan base. J.R.R. Tolkien can be considered one of the forerunners of the epic fantasy genre. He changed the entire genre in ways that we're not able to. He's influenced it so much. And the funny thing is, he created a language and he decided to come up with a law for it, which is absolute Chad energy. I will not lie. What a boss move right there, dude. So, yeah, so Lord of the Rings has incredibly deep lore. It's got stories that span thousands of years. For example, Galadriel, which is who is the chief character, the lead of the Rings of Power, is supposed to be at least 1,000 years at the moment, at least 1,000 plus 2,000 years, somewhere in that range at the moment of the events of the series, but she acts like a spoiled kid, which is weird because she's supposed to be all ethereal and wise. I mean, you would think after 1,000 years you'd have learned a few things. I've reached almost 30 and I've learned a lot of things. God, yeah, but let's get there, alright? The books were very well written. They've got an amazing fan base. They've got a huge fan base, and it's only expanded ever since the Lord of the Rings movies came out and the Hobbit movies came out as well. For those of you who do not know, the Hobbit is supposed to be the prequel to the Lord of the Rings. Bilbo Baggins is the person who hands over the ring to Frodo. He was the original bearer of the ring during the events. So technically the order of the movies, the order would be Silmarillion, The Hobbit, and then the Lord of the Rings, right? Because that's the chronological order. So A Song of Ice and Fire, spoiler alert for those who haven't watched the series, but essentially, A Song of Ice and Fire literally refers to a prophecy that speaks of Aegon the Conqueror, the prince that was promised. Alright? And in the series, that was Jon Snow, technically Jon Targaryen. His actual name was Aegon Targaryen. That was his given name. There's a lot of reasons why he didn't go about by that name. That's just one of the reasons that the entire events of Game of Thrones happened. Technically, he's at the center of it, which is really freaking cool once you figure that out. Anyway, A Song of Ice and Fire refers to the prophecy. The Game of Thrones series covered the entire coming to of the prophecy of A Song of Ice and Fire. And the books were very well written. I enjoyed reading the books. And I believe the series, I've watched snippets of the series with my friends, and I've watched it when we used to get together back in college. I've watched a sizable portion of the show up to season 4 or 5 at least, alright? But I am to understand that the writing quality went to shit after season 6. And my understanding was they essentially ran out of material that George R.R. Martin had written. And the difference is stark. Sorry for the pun. The difference is stark. Next you would say there was fire and blood involved. Sorry, I'm making really stupid puns. The difference is stark in the writing between the earlier seasons and the latter ones. For example, the ones where Tyrion Lannister, and that was a brilliant scene where he screams at the entire court, "I did not kill Joffrey, but I wish I did." Oh man, that was a powerful scene. And they've done it really well. The dialogue, everything was spectacular for the earlier seasons because they had really good source material to work with. And the writers initially respected the source material. Remember this point because it's important as we go through, okay? As we pass through this podcast, you will understand why those particular words, they had respect for the source material, is so important. Because initially they did have respect for the source material, and it was a very faithful adaptation of the works of George R.R. Martin. That's another important point. We will get to that later. Now, what happened was, as they ran out of material, they had to hire a team, and D&D, whomst the the fan base lovingly refer to as Dumb and Dumber, the directors of the series in the latter areas 6, 7, and 8. They ended up trying to subvert expectations when the entire show was building up to certain moments. They just decided to subvert expectations in the worst possible way. Just for that. I can't believe they did that. So, season 8 has gone down as one of the worst seasons ever written, and the finale, it was forgettable. Nobody I know, except one person who said it was very weirdly, it all worked together, but I think it's copium. That's the only person who have said, yeah, it was a very fitting finale. I was like, definitely don't take advice from this person. Anyway, so the last couple of seasons were primarily just D&D, Dumb and Dumber pulling stuff out of their behinds, and the entire thing was a dumpster fire. It was the entire fan base turned on the creation, and they tried to pretend. Everybody pretends that the show was not complete. It never got completed. There was never a season 8. There was no finale. They just wished that it wasn't dropped. That's copium. Just like there was no Matrix 2 and 3, bro. There was just one movie. Compared to the final seasons of Game of Thrones, we have House of the Dragon, where George R.R. Martin is actually an executive producer of the show. And the difference is stark. Every single scene is power-packed. It's brilliant. It's written so well. And dude, George R.R. Martin is brilliant at political drama and writing all of this stuff. His involvement, unfortunately, for the last couple of seasons was negligent except to supply characters and areas. So, and apparently he's also gone on record to say that his ending for Game of Thrones is different compared to what D&D put out. I'll be honest, I haven't actually watched the entire House of the Dragon things. I've been watching a lot of shots, but and I've pieced together a decent bit of the plot. It's almost like I'm watching the entire show just from watching the shots and certain episodes. But the show, from the little I've seen, is brilliantly written. It's power-packed, it's powerful. The acting is top-notch as well. There's a decent amount of diversity thing happening in House of the Dragon as well, because old Valyria apparently now has 2 houses, the Targaryens and the Velaryons, and the Velaryons are basically dark-skinned with blonde hair, and the kind of plot, it actually kind of works really well to help distinguish the 2 houses. In conclusion, House of the Dragon's got a beautiful script, it's very entertaining, and it doesn't focus the least bit on delivering the message. Compared to Rings of Power, now, like I've said multiple times, Amazon does not have the rights to Rings of Power. Essentially, what they've done is really expensive fan fiction, and the reason that they did this, and this is not the first time that a company has done this, they've taken a very famous IP because they know that a lot of people they know the product, they know about this particular thing, and they know that just making something will generate a lot of buzz. And that's what Amazon has done with Rings of Power. It was a business decision, but I think it's come back to bite them in the arse because it's been an immense loss. I will have to look at the numbers, but the audience is not happy with Rings of Power. Essentially, they've borrowed the association to Middle-earth. They've taken some of the characters that were mentioned in the jacket of Return of the King, and they filled in all the blanks with their random nonsense. Basically fanfiction. It wouldn't have been an issue if they had gone ahead and tried to acquire the rights to Silmarillion. And 2, if they had tried to be faithful to the world that they were adapting. But no, you know what they went ahead and did? They said that the world is imperfect and it needs to reflect ours. There's a lot of problems and they want to fix all of that. So basically they were saying, dude, you know what? We have the rights to this franchise and we're just gonna shit all over it because we have the money and you don't. Go f*** yourself. Basically, the entire show is a bunch of coincidences. It's like they made a bunch of PowerPoints, like plot points in a PPT. They said, hey guys, all of this has to happen, make it happen somehow. So, for example, Galadriel falls in the middle of the sea and the person who rescues her just happens to be Sauron, dude. Some mother of coincidence, dude. What is this nonsense? Make it believable. Out of nowhere, you have all of this happen, dude. Sorry, my faux Indian accent comes out when I'm a little excited. So, another issue is that Celebrimbor, I forget how to pronounce his name. I've played the game, dude. Damn it. I forgot. So anyway, the Master Smith doesn't know what an alloy is. He's taught by Sauron. And of course, the entire issue with the way they wrote Galadriel. This is an issue with how Hollywood writes female characters these days. Strong female characters. Strong, independent, badass women. But they end up writing petulant children who can't even connect to the audience. Petulant. That's all they are. Demanding. Arrogant. I mean, all of this would have been okay if there was some character growth, which is what people loved. Let's go back to Iron Man, okay? He was arrogant, and rightfully so, because he was a genius, right? But over the course of the movie, and over the course of the movies, we see him maturing, we see him changing, because of the result of the experiences that he goes through. He changes as a character, he grows. This is what is called a character arc. It's a basic thing in writing. I am a fledgling writer. Okay? I am a fledgling writer. I am trying to write books. I am writing books. Okay? I know about character arcs. These people have rights to multi-billion-dollar IPs and they don't know what a character arc is, dude. There's a reason that people have started memeing saying better love story than Twilight. Honestly, man, just focus on entertaining us, please. Please. Every single time they try to create a strong female character, she just ends up being unlikable. She's a monster, unsufferable, nobody can stand her. And this is supposed to be the best of women. Galadriel's supposed to be like thousands of years old, man. And she acts like a freaking teenager. I honestly think it's just them projecting arrogant, entitled, unlikable. You say these three words, this can be applied to pretty much any female character who's supposed to be strong and empowered and independent. She-Hulk. Captain Marvel. Galadriel. Strong, arrogant, entitled, unlikable. No character arc as well. They're perfect from the get-go. What the hell is the point of a story, dude? You see people evolve. That's the whole point of the hero's journey. I can't believe these people from Hollywood have done this. I can't believe you've done this. You have multi-billion-dollar IPs and no talent. Oh my god.
Oh my god! Wow!
The favorite part, and this has become a meme, okay, was how they showed Mordor happening. Basically, they had something come up. It's like I write down something, I cross it out. And like I write down Southlands, I cross it out, Mordor. It was a text transition. That's it. That was how Mordor appeared on screen, guys. That was how Mordor appeared on screen. A text transition. I can do that, dude. I can do that on PPT, dude. I can do that on Microsoft PPT. I don't need multi-billion dollars. I don't even need Blender for this. Imagine. This is the state of entertainment. They use the transition. I want to watch this just for the heck of it.
Oh my god!
The Southlands became Mordor on text. I can do that in a bad PowerPoint presentation, dude. Shame on you. Rings of power, it seems. I can do that on PPT. Is this... Dude, it's like they don't respect the intelligence of the audience, man. I'm watching the scene right now. Oh my god, the Southlands. Oh, it's my Mordor. They spent $1 billion for this PowerPoint, dude. I'm gonna keep this here. I'm I can't believe you've done this. Why? They spent $1 billion on mediocre dialogue, terrible pacing, basically taking a huge dump on the original IP, and to create unlikable characters. Ridiculously expensive fanfiction. Written badly and directed even worse. Now, I'm just gonna take a small detour to Bollywood, where something like this has been happening as well. And now there's a huge conspiracy theory about Bollywood, which I'm just gonna mention. Apparently, the North Indian movie industry, primarily Hindi movies, there's this rumor, there's this conspiracy theory that it's all controlled by certain gangsters from India who have relocated elsewhere because they wanted criminals like Dawood Ibrahim and all that stuff. So anyway, that I don't know why that is important, but essentially, for a very long time, Bollywood has had this incredibly racist and Hindu-phobic messaging in most of their movies, and people have started cottoning on, they've started catching up and understanding that, hey, why is it that only a particular community is subjected to these kind of hateful depictions, right? Because had it been done to any other community, there would have been riots. Just saying. It would not have ended with a peaceful resolution if particular other communities were depicted in the same way that the Hindu community was in these particular movies. For example, in the movie PK by Amir Khan, and this is something that has really caught up to Amir Khan and his recent movies. There was this one particular movie called PK, where the titular character is an alien who has come and landed on Earth. He's landed in India. He learns about the differences between the three major religions in India, which is Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism. And for the rest of the movie, for a particular huge part of the movie, PK, the alien, ends up poking fun at Hinduism, primarily. So a lot of people didn't particularly like what he was doing here, and this was sort of revealed in another of his movies. His agenda has basically been revealed, and people started calling for a boycott of pretty much most of the movies from Bollywood. Alright? Now, for example, there was a particular movie called The Kashmir Files, which essentially is a documentary on the events of what happened in Kashmir. It was about the exodus and massacre of the Kashmiri Pandits. This, just stating the facts, has caused immense issues. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole political thing about what all has happened. That's for you. You can go watch the movie yourself. And I'm not going to comment on the thing. But basically, people have started discerning the differences between good and bad cinema. Alright? They've started deciding to use their money to vote. As in, they will not spend on nonsense that puts them down in the name of entertainment, and has continued to do so for years altogether. And all of this caught up to Amir Khan's most recent movie, which was Lal Singh Chadda, which was, compared to his earlier movies, it was a massive flop. And there was a huge renegotiation that he had to do with the OTT series, all of that, because he primarily focuses on sending out the message instead of entertaining. And it's kind of caught up with all of Bollywood. Recently, people have understood that they want to be entertained, and they've started to use their money, especially after the pandemic. People are becoming a lot more conscious. Now, the funny thing is, the movie makers in Bollywood have not seen this. They are refusing to understand that the consumer wants something else, and they started blaming it on OTT. They started saying nonsense like, oh, they don't know what good cinema is, and they've started disrespecting the audience, which is just adding fuel to the fire. Because some of the South Indian movies that have come out, which have been rather respectful to heritage and culture, have done really well, all things considered. Such as, let's say, RRR, but forget even RRR, the best of, like, one of the most popular movies these days was Kantara, which is incredibly respectful. It spoke about the whole Hindu culture. Brahmastra tried to do something of the effect. It was, according to me, it's just a shot in the dark. They're trying to see whether the industry would prefer this, but Brahmastra just ended up being boycotted. This is a situation that's happening in India right now because people have gotten tired of woke nonsense, and they've started using their money to speak. They will not stand for it, is basically their message, and people are starting to find out. Kantara was a huge success because it didn't focus on lecturing, it focused on entertainment. Now, the last 20 minutes of Kantara was something else. It was beautifully done. You'd have to watch it to understand. I had shivers all over. Even now, when I think about it, I still get the shivers. When I watch the scene, shivers guaranteed. It's beautifully done, without a doubt. And Rishabh Shetty, hats off, man. Enjoyed your movie. So I'm actually gonna I don't think I've spoken about this in the thing, but in the video that I am gonna be putting out on the 21st. But essentially, when I returned to my hometown, I basically took a very long nap. I woke up, I didn't even have lunch. I went and watched this movie. That's one of the first things I did when I reached my hometown, which is brilliant, don't you think? I enjoyed it. I felt like it was an experience worth living through. Yeah. So anyway, getting back to this whole tirade, I just wanted to say, like, it's not... I know how to appreciate good content. I know how to appreciate cinema. Look at me just qualifying so much. I know what good stuff is, okay? I've watched so much bad stuff that I'm tired. I don't want to see it anymore. That's why I'm complaining. And dude, the thing is, I don't even watch that much movies or indulge in that much watching of content. That's the worst part. I don't do it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm tired, dude. I'm tired of this stuff. I've had enough. You know, the thing that really got me really mad was when I watched The Witcher Season 2. Now, yeah, I know this happened almost a year ago. It's literally been a year. But the reason I started out the entire year, I started out 2022 by reading the entire Witcher series. It got me into this whole reading books rush that I've sort of maintained, and then it kind of gradually tapered off as I realized that it wasn't the number of books that I went through, but the number of books that went through me, to quote Andrew Kirby. And I've been trying to do that as much as possible, trying to, get books into me. That sounds so weird, dude. Basically, I'm trying to get the lessons of the books. I'm trying to internalize whatever I've read. It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality of information, right? Instead of reading 10 okay books, I'm rereading one good book 10 times. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the idea. Alright, let's get to the straw that broke the camel's back. Witcher Season 2. Season 1 was it was brilliant. I really loved it. I loved the way they decided to do the whole storytelling. I loved the out of time episodes. Everything. Now, I watched the entire season in a couple of days. I watched the entire season over the course of a couple of days. That's how my friend and I planned it. I binge watched it and I loved it. It was brilliant. That moment where everything makes sense. The circle it comes full circle, so to speak. Beautiful storytelling. Now, the critics didn't like that, but the audience loved it. Alright? Now, with season 2, the critics loved it, and the audience hated it. My favorite, I think, episode would have been in season 2 was episode 1. Because it was the most faithful to the books. Every good thing from the Witcher series has been when they were faithful to the books. They deviated so much. Now, the thing was, when they began this entire show, they promised that it was going to be an adaptation. Sorry, not adaptation. What is adaptation? It seems it's like I've really messed up adoption. God in heaven. It was supposed to be an adaptation of the works by Andrew S. I don't want to take risk in pronouncing the author's second name. I forget his first name also. God. It was supposed to be an adaptation of the books. It was supposed to be a visual adaptation. And initially, the showrunner, what's her name? Lauren Hisrich and the writers essentially hate the source material. The writers have gone on record several times saying that they hate canon. Lauren Schmidt Hisrich initially promised that it was going to be a faithful adaptation, and then she started changing her tune. Essentially, they're doing the same thing. They took a memorable franchise, something that they knew had an established fan base, something that they knew would get people riled up, would get people to watch the show, at least out of curiosity to see what they've done with the IP. They took that and they butchered it. The only person... Dude, they were lucky enough to land Henry Cavill, who is an established fan of the entire series. Alright? One of his dream roles... And this guy is so lucky in getting his dream roles, dude. He got to play Superman, he got to play Witcher, and the second bit is really annoying because he got to play one of his dream characters, a dream role, and then he had to leave because the people ruined it. Because the writing team refused to get their own heads out of their asses, refused to see that telling a story was more important than delivering the message. And that the most important fact that they had an amazing storyline. If they had just stuck to translating what was possible to translate to the screen, they would have gotten an amazing storyline. But they didn't. They took The Witcher and they made it a show about Yennefer, the annoying witch. It was a choice she made in season 1 to give up being a mother. And then she throws a hissy fit about it throughout the freaking series. Yennefer in the books was not like this. I would know because I've read the entire series out of spite. Because I got tired. I could see the messaging. The movie was less about Geralt the Witcher and more about Yennefer the bitch. Sorry. Because she was acting like one, dude. Honestly. I am so sick and tired of Hollywood ruining good IPs, man. Netflix, get your shit together. Seriously, you've got too much woke content. You've got such horrible business decisions coming up, man. What is wrong with you? You're just alienating your customers. You take a good series and you run it to the ground. What is wrong with you? They had a dream project. And their issue is that the canon is too good? That the fans are too based? Dude, write a good story and no one would give a damn. The Marvel Cinematic Universe took inspiration from the comics and crafted something beautiful in the beginning. And then it went to shit. Because they focused on delivering the message and more on quantity than on quality. You know what really threw me off this? I wouldn't have spoken about this, but then I found out about Henry Cavill leaving after season 3. Now, sure, Liam Hemsworth may be a good actor, but nobody's gonna replace Geralt, man. And he was the only sane person keeping that entire thing together. They wanted to crack a joke at the death of Roach. Dude, write your own show. Write your own characters, but they won't do that because they don't have the freaking imagination. So they would rather take a beautiful IP and screw it up. And I think they get perverse pleasure out of doing this. Because they've done it so many times. I am sick and tired, man. I'm just gonna do my own things, dude. I'm done. Henry Cavill did not unexpectedly leave The Witcher. He's been complaining about trying to get the writing team to be more focused on the book. He's fought his battles, but they treated the entire character of Geralt and the entire series and the fan base as a joke. And all they want to do is deliver the message. Dude, Yennefer's sacrificing Ciri is so out of freaking character, man. They've ruined her character. And Geralt is just supposed to be okay with that? Just because she changed her mind at the last second and decided, oh, I messed up, I'll set this right. She knew how important Ciri was. And she decided to do it anyway. And that whole storyline is not even from the books, dude. They've come up with a series of nonsensical storylines. They've created their own characters. They've destroyed really good characters that people had a huge fan base for no reason. And they've gotten the law wrong. And people are understandably riled up about the entire thing. They don't like it. I'm done with the Witcher series. I don't know how many others are too. I'm sorry, dude. You should have known what a pile. Dude, my respects to Mr. Liam Hemsworth, who's going to be taking over the steaming pile of crap after our man Geralt Henry Cavill leaves. I'm sorry, but you're not the Witcher to me, dude. You're no Witcher. You're a fake. Why am I doing what? Even if Hemsworth grows a beard, nah, not happening, bro. He's chosen to enter a pit of vipers. Honestly, Hollywood and the rest of the world, especially whoever's engaging in woke nonsense, better get their crap together because people don't like to be lectured. This entire push against woke content, because honestly, I'm done. I know people who are done too. There are gonna be repercussions. Vote with your wallet. Just let the shows go bankrupt, maybe. And even then, dude, the funniest thing is they refuse to take responsibility for what they've done. I just find that hilarious. Oh, you see, people are being salty because favorite character, some nonsense. Their excuses don't even make sense, dude. You know what, maybe I should have chosen a lighter topic for this. But essentially what I've done is go on almost an entire hour rant about how I don't like the entertainment industry anymore. Yeah, deal with it. That's your... No. If they had gotten their shit together, I wouldn't have had to do this, dude. I've been annoyed for a very long time. And it's finally burst. I think it was the news of Geralt being replaced. I don't even refer to him as Henry Cavill. He's so perfect as freaking Geralt, dude. And he was... It's so sad. It is immensely sad, but... I'm gonna have to end the podcast here because I think I've taken up enough of your time just ranting. But yeah, that was it. I am done with Hollywood. I am done with Bollywood. I think they need to get their shit together and stop lecturing to us and start focusing on entertaining us as they are supposed to be doing. Which is why we give them money. If I wanted to be lectured, I would go sit in a college. But if I wanted to be lectured, I'd go sit in a college. That was a good one, yeah, damn. Anyway, that was about it for today. I will see you again. The podcast is back. There's gonna be a new video out on the 21st of this month. Go check it out and let me know what you think. Until next time, I will see you again. Peace.